A Single Woman Guide. Single Life Introduction. The single life usually means one of three things. I'm single and like it. I'm comfortable being free, doing what I want. I'm single and lonely. I'd like to meet someone. I think I'm worthy. I have money, a job, I look decent. I'm a good person. I contribute to society. I'm single and lonely, but I accept my reality. I'm not an attractive person as far as the mating game goes. I'm either poor, overweight, ugly, older, disabled, smelly, quirky, awkward, bohemian, mentally offbeat, have children or some other issue that's not attractive to potential lovers, so I live as a single because that's my lot in life. People get older. They're not as beautiful and inspired as they were when they were younger. It's not easy to find a happy person untainted by negative stuff from living among the human race. What is a good relationship for older people if you're not physically attracted to each other? Do you have a cup of coffee then go for a walk? At some point, that will be a good relationship. How many people are on prescription drugs nowadays for both mental and medical reasons? If you read the statistics, it seems crazy, like 67%. I feel like I live in a mad world. Where are the simple, sane people who know what's real anymore? I don't judge. I take all sides in providing useful information for single people to help them find what they're looking for, either a happy life as a single, single temporarily but expect to find love, single by position in life, not by choice, will make the best of life as a single. How many people are stuck up on status? It seems like women want guys with money like they see on TV, where everyone seems rich and cool without trying too hard. I put my real age on several dating websites and the photos I got back were all women I'm not attracted to. Young women aren't attracted to me. I'm not a millionaire who can attract a pretty gold digger, so forget it. Tony Curtis said he wouldn't date anyone his age. There was one on the Real Housewives of Orange County. One of them married some old guy who was dying while she was going around looking for her next husband. Stupid old men marry gold diggers. It's worse to be in a loveless marriage than being alone. Nowadays, there is a battle of the sexes. We call it misogyny, hating women, and misandry, hating men. Back in the day, monogamy was the accepted societal way of life. A lot of people are single these days. A few are in multiple relationships. The pressure to be paired off is not there anymore. I think it's harder to meet people nowadays because social life has been eroded by internet and cocoon life, this idea of sitting in your home watching a screen. Religious people still have a lot of social events. There are social events at meetup.com and a few other places. Men are afraid to approach women more than in the past because they fear it could be construed as harassment or stalking. There is no answer for loneliness. It creeps in now and then regardless of who you are. Everybody feels it, even married people, simply because most couples are not in that whammo, beautiful soulmate, kindred spirit type relationship. We're basically a bunch of loners despite all the cute pictures you see on Facebook or Instagram. A photo represents a few seconds of time. We spend the vast part of our time alone in our heads. That's it. We will all die alone in our heads and enter the ether just like we came in, alone. Romantic love is the icing on a good life if you can find it. Everyone has to learn on their own. There is true romantic love out there. Good luck searching for it. I watched the American Greed show where the woman put a hit on her husband to inherit his money. There are no easy answers. There are good people and wolves in sheep's clothing. This book is about both men and women living the single lifestyle. Quite often when people talk about the single lifestyle, they discount men or bachelors because most of us assume men get along fine being single. They have booze, sports on TV, porn, the local bar and other amusements to be pretty happy. Women, on the other hand, are victims of the dreaded stereotype, the spinster living alone with her cats, very lonely. If you watch movies on the W network and another network called Lifetime or Slice in Canada, almost all of them are about the exact same thing: single women, usually between 28 to 50, usually ambitious or in love with their careers, claiming to be fine going along, meeting some unexpected handsome and nice or handsome wealthy guy, then bingo bango. The last few scenes are always the same, like the royal prince from a fictitious nation set to marry the royal-blooded bitch handpicked for him, but he prefers the governess for his daughter, who is so pretty, poor, creative, funny and unpretentious. In the last scene of the movie, they have their first kiss. It always ends that way. She thinks she was wrong or spurned, then he shows up like the prince in shining armor saying, "I love you baby, I can't live without you, marry me," or sometimes there's just that look, then the kiss, then fade to black, credits, uplifting music. One that I saw was that there was a problem at the airport, so the woman was denied entry on the plane. She went to rent the last car at the lot since it was Christmas, so some guy shows up, gives the clerk money, a bribe, and says, "I want that car." He tells the woman she can join him to Seattle if she pays for gas. He's a Homeland Security undercover agent spying on the women, realizes she has a beautiful soul, then at the end she discovers he's an undercover spying on her. She goes to the local Christmas tree ceremony and all of a sudden he drives up in a tractor with hay in the back for a hayride. He humbled himself and fought for his girl. It was so stupid. In real life I would have said, "Screw you, you brainwashed lion asshole with your stupid job spying on people for nothing. Is that the most noble thing you can do with your life, interfere with people's lives for some Homeland Security BS?" Cinderella is repeated in almost every movie. They pound this idea into us that being single is not the natural state of affairs. It's not normal and to be feared. I heard Kim Cattrall, the actress of fame from the TV show Sex and the City on AQ radio show CBC interview, say she does not want to end up alone. You can't fake physical attraction. Any full alpha male needs it in a relationship. No young woman wants to go out with an older guy unless he's got money, then it's fake sugar baby love, so I don't give a crap. Get real about this thing called soulmates. Accept existential loneliness as part of the human condition, everybody alone in their own heads no matter what. Go to scamguard.com, to the dating section, read the complaints about how horrible some of those dating websites are. They put fake profiles up. They want your money, then they don't care about you. The best or biggest dating websites are Match.com, fee. eHarmony.com, fee. POF.com, free. OkCupid.com, free. OurTime.com, over 50. ChristianMingle.com, supposedly for Christians, also for wolves in sheep clothing. Most people get lonely, men and women alike, except for some people who understand existential loneliness and made peace with it, like me. I know that everyone lives alone in their own heads. No other human being will ever penetrate that aloneness, no matter how intimate you get with others. I accept this state of being, however many people crave human contact, not just online contact, being with people, having companionship and intimacy. Back in the day, women were either married off by the family in arranged marriages, sometimes sold as property, servants, or slaves, or they stayed with the family as a helper to married siblings. Around the time of the Industrial Revolution, when women started getting independent, even though they had to option to go out and work on their own, they were generally considered with lower status if they were single, because it implied they couldn't attract a man, so they must have been either ugly, fat, had bad social skills, or a terrible personality. As the world industrialized and women went to work en masse, many business people who sold goods to women encouraged the single lifestyle, trying to promote the free, independent, fun single gal having loads of fun with her big wardrobe, all her clothes, her sports car, her freedom, and her fun lifestyle, as portrayed in TV shows with single girls like Mary Tyler Moore, That Girl, Charlie's Angels, The Golden Girls, Rizzoli, and Isles, and Sex in the City. But why do we still seem to pity single women as they age? Why do those reality shows like the Several Housewives of some city shows seem to portray the single aging women as closet alcoholics desperately looking for love? Is a woman biologically pre-wired to look for one good man to be with, to protect her, take care of her and love her late at night when she feels alone? Men have all kinds of interests to keep them happy, but women seem to want intimacy with a man, which I think is sad, because I'm a guy who knows guys, and I think most guys, especially as they age, aren't physically handsome, aren't kind, compassionate, intimate, good conversationalists or good in bed, yet women keep looking for some dreamy guy that will love them like a soulmate. Most of the good-looking, interesting, inspired guys are either gay or narcissistic, into themselves. A handsome aging guy with some game is going after a young girl, not somebody his age. They call them sugar daddies. There are at least 20 sugar daddy dating websites. It's just the way it is. At least I'll tell you the truth, not sugarcoat it like all them phony psychobablist love experts giving you false confidence like that awful lying TV show with all the propaganda behind it about the fun cougar. Live a good life day by day. If you meet a nice person, fine. If not, cherish your life as you live it. Women get lonely more than men. Why do you keep hoping you'll meet some dreamy guy even as you age? Why can't you just be happy with your life? The book is simply a discussion and practical resources for the single lifestyle. Chapter 1. A Single Woman Guide 1. The Single Woman 1. The big deal and stigma about being single is whether you really like the solitude and freedom it gives you, or does it make you feel lonely. There is no doubt that there is a massive paradigm shift regarding women and marriage. 50 years ago, if you were 40 and single, people felt sorry for you and thought you were a miserable, lonely person, but nowadays, it has changed drastically. 51% of all American women are single, and a lot of them say they prefer it to being in a marriage, implying that they can't find a man to meet their standards, so why bother? Just stay single, live and be happy. It's not the social death sentence it once was. I can relate to this because I'm older and single. It's just the way I am. I live to constantly move, I'm self-centered as any normal person is, and I feel fine. It's not like I'm missing out on something emotionally. To me, most people in marriages are two loners in the same house. I don't need the added stress of trying to be nice to somebody all the time in the same house. This is what they call love and marriage. To me, it's a headache. The question is, do you get lonely, or how much does it bother you to be alone? I'm sure most of us get lonely here and there, but as you age and mature, you realize that life is lived alone in your head regardless of whether you're with someone or not. So I'm mature enough to know I'll die alone with my thoughts in my head. I'm comfortable with it. It's no big deal. I see my purpose in my life is to honor who I am the way my God created me. If I go through without a soulmate, love and a family, I will still be happy because I got to do what I wanted to do with my life, a fate most people never even had a chance to do until relatively recently. But to me, the inner voice that tells me to honor the archetypes my soul spits out at me is so much more important than love and marriage. You can't help who you are. I don't down myself because I don't fit into society's mold. I'm proud of who I am and live to honor it. One thing I noticed about single women as they age is this new age, intellectual, serious, analytical mode they go through. On the one hand, they read books that tell them to be deep, profound goddesses, but on the other hand, they have heavy hearts, analyze too much, live in their own thoughts without abandoning themselves to life and just doing something active to release some inspired energy and feel good about themselves. I've scanned plenty of them simple abundance type self-help books written by older women for women, and to me, it's all cosmetic. All these solutions they offer, like take a walk in the morning or take a bubble bath, mean nothing to me. You either got an inner standard that you're attempting to reach through inspired exertion with some intense, passionate energy, or you're just a generic human being. This is the on-off switch for happiness versus mundanity. Everything else is bullshit. Pampering yourself is useless if you've got an empty, unfulfilled soul. It doesn't change anything. A dangerous phenomena from a mental health point of view is the someday my Prince Charming will find me. Get real. If you're pushing 45, men your age are looking for younger women. Don't expect to attract anyone under 50. Look in the mirror. See who you really are. Women are valued for their looks and fertility. At 45, you can't have kids anymore, you're not as fresh as 30-year-olds, so be realistic about who you are. Most 45-year-old women I know are not as slim and pretty as they once were. Get real. See your life for what it really is, although don't lose heart. As long as you're reasonably funky and optimistic and out in society mixing it up with the human race somehow, you always have a chance of meeting somebody, regardless of age. Don't fall into a rut sitting around with your depressed, middle-aged divorced friends cursing men and talking about how pathetic your lives are. You need sex regardless of age. Some women have affairs with married men. Some women use sex toys. Some go lesbian. The high sales of erotic fiction over the internet is fueled by single women who don't have to face the embarrassment of walking into a real store to buy the stuff. The celibate lifestyle is going strong, whether by choice or situation. Women say they need physical closeness and sexual release, but the physical closeness is the most important to most of them, the exact opposite of a man who wants his orgasms more than his cuddling. The single woman too. Most women will outlive men, divorce once or twice or widow, and along with the emergence of the independent woman as a cultural phenomena, this has led to the creation of a large segment of the female population being single at some point in their lives. Estimates say there are something like 50 million single women in America, covering all ages and demographic categories. Women are more powerful and independent than ever before. Even though old stereotypes die hard and men still control the power via the old boys network, it's still the best time for women ever in history to live their own lives, and many are rejecting the traditional housewife-mother role and living their own lives like men had an inherent right to do all along, as the adventurers and explorers they're supposed to be. A lot of women get single after several years in the dating scene or a failed marriage when they realize there are no Prince Charmings as was promised to them in all the movies and magazines they saw during their formative years, so they say screw them all and choose to live reasonably happy lives single, some having transient or casual relationships, some staying celibate, some swinging over to the other side with their women friends. As they get older, some women still hold out for a hero, but most get real, realize it probably won't happen, so they settle into creating their own lives. A lot of women see the biological clock ticking, realizing the tall, dark, rich monogamous alpha male isn't coming, so they either adopt a kid or get artificially inseminated and go on to live happy lives as single parents. Whereas once marriage was the big ritual in a woman's life, today less than half of all college girls in a poll said they thought marriage critical to their personal happiness in life. It's a good thing that the old stereotypes are being replaced by the realization that women can do whatever they want with their lives, and many are doing it. That's not to say women don't want love. They still do, but after failed relationships and unfulfilled expectations of love with men, they simply get real and move on to another phase of their lives. A lot of women realize it's better to be alone than to be in a half-assed relationship with a guy who doesn't support nor appreciate them. Women are taking the time to develop their own identities, unlike before when it was all about marriage and family. We still live in a couples-oriented world, and many women say they feel left out of social functions because they're single. Many feel guilty because they somehow feel they don't conform to the cultural ideal of the fulfilled woman, the stay-at-home housewife raising several kids. Old stereotypes die hard. A lot of people look down on single women and don't seem to want to accept the fact that many women enjoy being single over being hitched. A lot of women are relieved after their marriages break up to feel free for the first time in a long time. Being happily single means you're happy in your own skin and feel you've made a comfortable life for yourself in a home that feels like home sweet home. A lot of singles live in sterile apartments that don't seem homey, but in order to feel good about it, you have to claim a place as your home and tailor it to suit the atmosphere you want. Single people in general have less bills than a married couple or family, hence they have more disposable income to do with as they please to enjoy their lives, and this is the big advantage of being single, provided you have some money to go along with it. Women generally get lonelier than men, probably because they're conditioned to be married and have kids since day one, so they often feel like failures if they're not living out the state of affairs, while men can do anything they want and they're just looked upon as adventurous explorers. A woman artist I knew said she had to be alone to live out her life freely. Occasionally we all get lonely, but the price of marriage may be too high, a compromise of your free self. The only worthwhile marriage is a soulmate connection, yet when you get right down to it, most marriages are not soulmate affairs, rather they're alright affairs, but not the hot sparkly type you should have in order to be worth it. A lot of women simply can't stand being alone, while men seem more casual about it. Just watch TV, drink a few beer, play golf, and they're happy. The Single Woman 3. When women's lib first came on the scene with the protests of the 60s, Helen Reddy's 1972 song I Am Woman and the book Diary of an Unmarried Woman, it was cool and fashionable to be single and free, but this trend has gone full circle and now we're back in the marriage game with women expected to work as well as raise the kids. Despite the cultural push for marriage, there are always a few individuals who choose to go their own way. Many women in the modern world are independent by nature, possibly fed up with relationships, and have the means to pursue their own lives by virtue of working good jobs that yield them enough money to live comfortably as singles. Just like many men hate the thought of marriage, it stifles the lives of some independent women too. Some women simply want to live free lives unhassled by men and kids. It's not that they're lesbians, they just want to be free to pursue free lives. Most women hate being single, both within themselves and because of the stigma out in society, but some really love their lives and have a great time without being masculine alpha female types. Simply keep your femininity and enjoy your life. Only when you live like this will you attract nice guys, if that's what you want. Some women like being free just like many men like being free and having casual relationships with the opposite sex. This is what works for some people. Just like a lot of men are slobs who couldn't attract a girl if their lives depended on it, especially after 40, so too are a lot of girls fat, chunky slobs who like to eat chocolate and wear grungy clothes, so even if they want a guy, they isn't cut out for it, so might as well stay single and live the single life with cats, hot chocolate, and a magazine. I remember seeing a movie once about this 30ish single girl always out making the scene at social functions, subconsciously looking for a guy while claiming to go to charity functions and other things to help people and be with her friends, but suddenly at one of them, she realized the phoniness and futility of it all. In her heart of hearts, she didn't really want to be there. She was following a social convention, doing something she didn't really like in order to keep up the pretense of being a successful high society babe and to hopefully find a guy, so the story shows her there talking to all these wimpy guys as phony and trendy as her. It ended with her in a cab going through this great revelation, so in the next scene, she gave up her prestigious job as an interior decorator or lawyer, whatever it was, packed up all her things, and the final scene was her in a restaurant in small-town America working as a waitress, and some good-looking blue-collar working man type comes walking in. They both stare at each other, and that's the end of the saga of the 30ish single gal. You can have it all, a free life and enough intimacy to keep you happy. If you don't want love, don't define yourself by the societal view that all single women over 30 are desperate. Simply live a happy life without feeling self-conscious or apologizing to anybody for your choice of lifestyle. It's fine to be friends with other women without being a lesbian, but if you want that, that's fine too. There's no law that says you can't do what you want with other people in a consenting way. Men can live single without hassles, but there seems to be a stigma attached when women do it. The solution is to live your life as you see fit. Don't automatically feel lonely and rejected if you're an over 30 woman not married. Do what you want to do, either stay single or beautify yourself, find a man and get married. Be happy, free, and independent either way. Single women by choice take a lot of criticism from the greater society. They're often perceived as scorned men hating bitches who want to be men, but this isn't necessarily true. You have the freedom to do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anyone else in the process, so if you want to act like a man, it's your prerogative, but it's probably better to keep a hold of your femininity for your own sense of identity rather than degenerating into a slob, which a lot of single guys and girls do because they have no one to answer to, no one to look good for or keep them in check, so they often go to the other side of hedonism and apathy, losing their noble selves in the process. One fat girl simply bought a bunch of junk food and ate it every night as her greatest pleasure until she got disgusted with herself and lost the weight. It's very easy for single people to let themselves go unless they have inspiration and inner strength. A lot of single women got that way by getting fed up with men, so they hate the entire male population in general, often congregating in little groups to do some good old-fashioned cathartic male bashing. If this is you, get over it. Not all men are bad, just like all women aren't good, so don't burn your bridges by getting into that misogynic headspace. Most women with kids say there's nothing better in the world even without a father figure present. Women who go childless come in two groups. The first group is the one who choose to be childless and are generally happy with the decision. The second group is the women who want children but can't have them due to either infertility, no man around to do the deed, too involved in their career, or money problems. These women often regret not having children as they get older. A lot of single women get some parenting experience by taking care of their nieces and nephews or volunteering with children at charitable organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Everybody needs sex one way or another. Look for Betty Dodson's book or some of the books at goodvibes.com to help you deal with this topic. A lot of women give up on sex with men because they feel they're too unattractive and fat to attract a man as they age, and a lot of them say it's too much bother to go through the dating and courting process for the cheap sex they get from duncy men anyway. There's also the issue of safe sex too. Some women go lesbian, some go totally celibate, not even having sex with themselves anymore. This is generally easier for women than it is for men. Men can generally attract younger girls regardless of age. Women can generally only attract men either around their age or older, so as they pass 45 or so, most of the men that age are either married, single with younger girlfriends, gay, or duds, so a lot of them say since they can't find a worthy guy, they simply don't have sex with guys anymore. If they find a male companion for platonic social comfort, that's good enough for a lot of them, but there are a few women who need sex all the time and stay on the prowl till death do them part. A lot of single women say they dread getting old alone because it seems so depressing, but the antidote is to stay active, join senior social clubs and spend time with other older women like yourself. A lot of older women like to read. Don't let menopause ruin your life. You're just moving into another phase of life. You're as old as you feel. A lot of single women ally with gay men or the men at their local church to give them the male contact some of them need to feel like they're living a worthy life. The one great advantage most aging single women have over single men is their friendship networks. Single women generally have good friends who help them through, while men are more likely to be islands, living by themselves without a close friend to talk to about things. The Cougars is a group of older single women who get together and hit the local nightclubs. They have chapters all over. In the end, a lot of women aren't cut out to be the traditional housewife motherly type, so they choose to be single to live their lives, which could be the biggest change in human society in the 20th century. It's better this way because now they have freedom of choice, whereas once before 30 or 40 years ago, if you were a single woman, you were basically a social outcast regardless of whether it was by choice or circumstance. Try hashtag 305.489 or HQ800 at the library for books about single women. I found a few books about living alone at hashtag 305.9. Woman's biggest mistake in the love game. Women's biggest mistake in the love game is they want too much too fast. They are too aggressive for a commitment. They expect the guy to click in on them as the devoted guy right after the third date. The guy may not be out chasing other skirts. He just doesn't want to be crowded by anyone. He will commit on his own when he is ready. Women in general play a game to get a guy. Their objective is to get the guy. They read all this psychobabble out there and turn it on the guy rather than being natural about it. Women are schizophrenic. Because they are strategizing to get the guy, they are not being natural, so their behavior is based on momentary mood. 1 minute they're nice and loving. The next minute they're cold and calculating because they're thinking back to some psychobabble they read or what some girlfriend told them last night who's jealous and wants to sabotage the relationship. Girls have weaker identities than men in general. It's not prejudice on my part. It's an objective fact. Men can go off and release all kinds of energy to feel good. Most girls, despite what they say about being adventurous, happening, and intense, don't do much beyond the regular things like working, shopping, and eating, so they have no identity beyond what the culture tells them to do: buy clothes, try to look attractive, get a man, get married, and have babies. There aren't many bohemian women around happy with their lives as is, but there are a lot of male bohemians around happy with the experience of life itself. Because of this, their lives center around getting a guy, while a lot of guys have other things to do. Love to a guy is 10% of his life. Love, or at least a marital contract, to many girls is 100%. Women are not as emotionally stable as men. Both men and women can hide their true emotions for a while, but girls always seem to let their true frustrations and aggressions show before a man does. Men learn to keep it in from day one because it's not manly to show disappointment or frustration. It shows weakness, but if a girl gets mad at a guy because he doesn't seem to be as lovey-dovey as she wants after the third date, she lets him know, often unconsciously, passive-aggressive, but he sees her true colors and bails. So after 5 guys like this, is it any wonder why she's acting like a scorned bitch with a phony happy face on? Guys can see when someone is jaded. It's not all the guy's fault. Girls put too much pressure on. The whole problem is that most of us are lukewarm people meeting other lukewarm people. Very few of us inspire love at first sight, which is why there are very few love at first sight affairs out there, so the search for a mate becomes a muddled asset versus liabilities spreadsheet. Why do you think I'm cynical about most relationships? I see loveless marriages everywhere. There may be some friendships of convenience there and even sincere affability, but it isn't love. Why do these people stay together? Is it better to be in a half-assed love affair than to be alone? For many people, it is. Women want too much and they're not natural about it. It's like a business plan to get married with a guy. This is why I don't believe in playing around with could-bes. You either know right away, and if you're worthy, you got the goods to back it up if you want it, and everything else is less than pure, so why bother? Am I unlovable? Tons of girls pay good money to therapists to try to get reassurance that they're worthy of love, or to try to discover why they can't find love. I say be like me, the guy who wrote A Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment. I know I'm a decent person who doesn't break laws or act obtrusive or crude to people in public, but other than that, my allegiance is to my true nature, who God created me to be. I don't care if other people see me as lovable or not, because I know I'm loved and lovable. Ask any pet I've ever been with. I choose not to be monogamous, but if I was, I know that to be loving and lovable, you have to feel that your life is on a solid foundation first. Don't present yourself to the world with phony cool bullshit. Live true to yourself. If you find love, great. If you don't, you always have your own inner dignity and identity. Single woman by choice. I make my own money. Most men are emotional morons, why bother? Single 30ish chick, claims not to be a lesbian. Why is a woman being single a mark of shame rather than being proud of your independence? It's very simple. We live in a man's world, men make the rules, they don't want women cramping their style and invading them in the world of work, so they define their roles for them as housewife mothers, and if you don't fit into this category by the time you're 30, you're stigmatized as a weird, lost, lonely, alienated female, despite how so-called successful you might be in the so-called real world. 'Tis better to have married badly than not to have married at all. This is the prevailing ideology about women by other women and men alike, and doubly so if you don't have a baby by the time you're 35 due to the biological clock. Older male bachelors are often thought to be having a great old time playing the field and / or consumed with some great meaningful work they're doing, while single women are considered unnatural with their cats, their romance novels, their home decor and their other trivial stuff, leading lonely, empty lives still hoping for the Prince Charming of youthful folklore. Women have the word spinster or the term old maid to keep them self-conscious about being single, this image of some desperate, lonely old woman living by herself somewhere. A lot of younger single women and never been married older women might feel this way, but a lot of divorced women and widows say they're happy being by themselves. Divorced women have been there, done that. They know that most men, at least in their age group, are either patriarchal or duds, so to them it's why bother. They can't get the love they really want, so they prefer to be single without the hassle of a typical, half-assed guy. This is the vibe I got after reading some essays by women saying how they felt about being single after the age of 40. The big thing that they say they like as opposed to their mother's generation is that now they have the choice to be single, whereas in their mother's day, they were considered outcasts if they were either never married or divorced and didn't remarry. It's a societal thing. Because the values have changed, single parents are accepted and the women's magazines now write positive articles about being single, whereas 30 years ago or so, all they wrote about was the bliss of marriage and family. Many single women married to have kids, then divorced or married for love, but when it didn't pan out, they left and dedicated their lives to their children. Most single women have to work for a living. That's a struggle in itself, simply worrying about paying bills without worrying about looking for love or being in some perfect lifestyle with enough time to exercise, eat right, get manicures and buy fashionable new clothes all the time. Despite all of this, in these essays I read by women describing their lives, on the surface they seemed free and happy, but underneath I could sense they were lonely. They talked about lesbian relationships, meeting men who didn't seem interested in having sex or relationships with them, because of their age, so it goes back to my beliefs about people in general. I get a lonely feeling now and then, but I have physical activities, recreational drugs, casual friends, pets and other things to keep me moving and inspired about my life. Girls generally don't have the freedom I have to go wherever I want. It's because of personal safety. They can't even jog or bike the streets without worrying about getting assaulted. This sets them up to sit at home more so than a guy. Then they feel sorry for themselves and want a guy to love them. Guys can do substitute activities for love. Some women can, but most are wired for the need and desire for love from a man. Ultimately, I feel that most single women would rather be with a man, while a lot of single guys don't want the hassles of a relationship. Men are allowed to live adventurous, single lives. Women still don't have that right from a politically correct point of view. Society is not really ready for single, adventurous, happy women past 50. Women can still be single and assumed to be slightly sad, but to be single, footloose, fancy-free, and happy is virtually unheard of, except for the few women I read about who biked around the world. But how many of them are around? Not too many. Or that awful book by Gail Sheehy, which was a put-on just like the TV show Sex and the City is. There are very, very few over 40 women running around living a happy casual sex lifestyle. I'd like to meet one. To me, they all want love. Society wants you married or sad that you're single and on the hunt looking for a man. It's a mixed bag, a mixed blessing. Most women are caught in the middle. Some like the freedom but would give it up in a minute for a good man. Others would like a man but won't change who they are for one, just like some independent type men are. Some can't find a man even though they want one, either because they're too shy, ugly, fat, introverted, live in the country, etc. These are the lonely ones, the ones who want a man but can't find a decent one. The bottom line is that there is no universal truth regarding single women. Their moods are always changing. Today, a single girl will feel good because she's free and liberated. Tonight she'll feel lonely because she'll be laying in bed without a man. It's a contradictory mix. There is some good and bad with the lifestyle, just like with married women who have to deal with pesky, smelly husbands now and then. People just live. There are no great universal truths or privileged paths to happiness. You just do the best you can day by day. At least you got the freedom of choice. You can choose to be single or in a relationship, and it's not such a big deal in the social stigma sense anymore. Michelle-and-the-city.blogspot.com. Chapter 2. A Single Woman Guide to Single and Happy After Men. Based on all the reading I've done by women for women, namely books at hashtag 301.4, hashtag 305.489 and hashtag 306.89 at the library, my conclusion is that even though men's traditional roles have barely changed in the last 10,000 years, women have changed drastically in the last 40 or so years. For the first time, women have the means of independence to have their own power away from men, to determine their own lives and do what they want without the stigma of culture affecting them too much. Many women who got married when society was still in transition in the 70s and 80s are getting divorced, leaving their men and actually feeling good and free for the first time in their lives. It happens when you can throw off cultural conditioning to focus on being who you really are away from cultural brainwash. Women say they want intimate male contact, but it's not the cut and dry monogamy marriage thing anymore. If a guy is a pig, the woman doesn't necessarily have to stick with him just because she's afraid of going it alone or afraid she might not find another because of the chronic male shortage out there. It's all about freedom. You can't really love another person greatly unless you love yourself first and are whole as an individual. A lot of women are initially brainwashed by the cultural thing about happiness through marriage and family, which isn't necessarily true. It's just a cultural rule that doesn't apply or only applies halfway because too many people get married way too young before they know themselves, feel stifled until they can get out through divorce, explore their lives freely for a while, then perhaps try again with a more closer soulmate than before, or choose to stay single if they want. That's another thing in modern society. There's much less stigma attached to an over 35-year-old single woman today than 30 or more years ago. You could be a lonely, cash-strapped single parent after divorce, or you could feel good that you've got some control and freedom in your life and go on to thrive. Many women say their fears didn't happen and their lives improved immeasurably after divorce, so it's a double-edged sword. There will be problems immediately after divorce, but if you're strong, tough, and willing to work at it, you can get a good job, earn your own money, have some freedom, and set up a good situation for yourself away from the guy who must have stifled you one way or another since you divorced him for some reason. Incidentally, about 70% of all divorces are initiated by women who are tired of their Dudley husbands. They don't get the respect nor love they really want. A lot of women are just like men in the stereotypical men's ways of freedom and being smothered. They feel the same way. They don't want guys to control them or get so close that they barely have their own identities left anymore. I'm not saying it's easy. It will be hard at first, but it's better to live in a tough situation than stay and continue to slowly die inside as you feel yourself slipping away. Once you're free and feel yourself getting more self-sufficient and independent day by day, it often makes you feel exhilarated for being in control of your life and paying your own way on your own without being dependent on a man for your material needs. The media seems to have a vested interest in portraying divorced women as miserable, lonely spinsters having a tough go of it money-wise, probably because it's the men who create most of the media stories and don't like women to divorce them. But if you believe what women say, after a few years, most say they're so much happier now that they got divorced, regardless of whether they're still single, have a new boyfriend, or have gotten remarried. They just seem happier without the burden of a Dudley, somewhat controlling husband around, making their own way in the world. There will always be sexism in the world controlled by men. You can be angry, but it doesn't solve much unless you use that anger to lift yourself up and make a place for yourself in a male-dominated workplace. There are laws to protect you against workplace discrimination, but the spirit of it will always be men controlling the power. Even so, many companies want to bring women in on the decision-making process so you can forge a comfortable niche for yourself out there in the workforce. Marriage and family cuts a lot of women down into quiet, meek domestic servants, which is not who they are. They have identities as individuals too and want to express them, but the responsibilities of wife and family keep them chained into a role that might not be inherent to them. A lot of men are pigs, a lot of women are quietly angry, so they feel an incredible burden being in the relationship, then they're afraid of breaking loose because of all the horror stories out there about desperate divorced women. But I've said it several times already, nobody owes you anything. Get a marketable skill and at least work part-time just so you know you can be independent if need be. Limbo and guilt are horrible places to be, but if the marriage sucks, you have to get the guts to move on even to an uncertain future, because if you stay, you know for sure you will always be miserable, but if you go, at least you will be free, your life will be in your hands and could get better if you're willing to work at it and don't just self-destruct in depression and pills. Divorced women generally have a triple whammy against them as working mothers on the verge of menopause, but most of them say they like it that way. It gives them power, makes them feel powerful because they're controlling their own lives and raising kids at the same time. There's generally fear, anxiety, and a lower standard of living at first, but the ones who make it successfully on their own say the difference over their former lifestyle is monumental, much better than now than before. Many divorced women have control over their lives which they didn't have before, their spirits are free, they have a better sense of themselves as individuals than ever before while they were married. Of course many want love, but not love with any old average guy. The second time around they want a more meaningful equal relationship with someone who comes close to the soulmate ideal. A certain percentage of women never marry again. They're happy raising their kids and being single. It's the end result of the process of finding themselves. 40 years ago this would have been unacceptable, with the net result being a society of neurotic divorced women, but nowadays, it's no big deal. If you want to be single, no big deal unless you make it so by being self-conscious about it. Some women have boyfriends who live in a different residence, and this is what works for some people, to be in a relationship but each have their own place to live in their own space, so it's just the right combination of freedom and intimacy for them. It's not selfish to try to better yourself if you feel a marriage isn't working, but it is selfish if you blame your husband for your personal problems when he was just being a good guy but you were the miserable one, so don't blame him if you want a divorce for your own reasons. Be straight about it, do it, and move on. Have your mourning period, then get on with your independent life. The best attitude to take is that the first marriage was a learning experience to make you a better person now. Look at divorce as a beginning and not an end. If the husband is critical of the wife's body and lovemaking during a marriage, quite often they will internalize it and go to pieces both physically and sexually, but after divorce when you're alone, you don't have that criticism anymore, so a lot of women say they get their health, vitality, sex appeal, and sexual appetites back. The freedom gives them back their spark. Now that they're older and more mature, they're not as vain and overly concerned with their looks as they were when they were younger. Listen to your inner voice. Get on with your life. Life is not over at 40. Divorced women aren't necessarily a used up, angry bunch who desperately want to get remarried. Think of it as a time to get back the sweet young idealistic girl you were before the crap of the world hit and you lost your way. In any event, this is always the true purpose of life, to find and forge your own identity. An intimate relationship is always the afterthought to you living the right life for yourself. Everything takes time. Life takes time. It's the process of enjoying and developing yourself every day by following your soul and always being happy with yourself, living in the moment all the time no matter what. Your true essence was in you when you were born. A happy life is to live by it. A miserable life is to repress it and not use it up. That's how simple life is. The cardinal mistake many people make is marry too young, thinking the marriage will solve their existential problems of life, but they never do. Everybody has to take this journey of the soul if they want to be truly happy. Learn about money and get a marketable skill regardless of whether you're single, married or divorced. Be whole, have a full heart. Most people do not want to be alone, but human life is lived alone. You will never share what you think and feel with others to a high degree. Even if you're intimate today, tomorrow is a new day and you have to culture those relationships all over again. The easy way is to accept the human condition, live by your true nature and make your allegiance to the spirit inside of you created by God. Release your natural energy every day to honor who you were created to be by nature. Single, romantic, and alone, the free spirit artist. Better unattached than unsuitably matched. Spanish proverb. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Oscar Wilde. There is a viewpoint going around that the most romantic people are the ones who have the guts to be who they really are, to follow their own dreams as opposed to the dreams the world manufactures for them, and because they are so different, unique, and gutsy than the norm, they often don't come across a soulmate in their lifetimes. But unlike normal people, they don't feel lonely much because they have a romantic spirit in their souls. Their entire lives are a romance, even if it is with themselves. Some of these people prefer to be alone, some don't, but because it's so hard to find a soulmate and because they won't compromise on their standards, many end up going through life alone, albeit happy, but they probably would have been happier had they found somebody to share it with. Many people who love their lives for the spirit of it would like somebody to share it with, but we all know there is never a perfect fit. Nobody really knows anybody else. We are all loners stuck in our heads, each of us going through with our own fantasies. The deal is that any love affair will never be perfect. There will always be compromises. Some romantically inspired people can't seem to accept anything less than perfection, so they're doomed to a life alone because they won't find the perfect fit. Some don't feel that strongly about relationships. They enjoy what they do more, the experience of life itself. They are not asexual per se, their sexual drives are intact, but they are a relationship in a sense, ambivalent to them. Others really want a soulmate love, but they live pretty good lives as is, so even though they feel lonely here and there, life is still pretty good and they feel they could possibly meet a soulmate at some point in time. Still others want relationships in a new sense, so to speak. They want alternative arrangements, kinda like one room in my two-room house for me, one room for the relationship. It's segmented. The relationship is not all-encompassing. It's just one part of a two-pronged life. The individual, the relationship, and family. It's probably not 50-50. The percentages vary in cycles. This is the type of marriage a lot of self-absorbed creative genius type people live out. They're true to the art or soul within themselves, and beyond that, give some effort to their families. They're not really selfish. It's who they are. If a self-absorbed creative artist can find someone who understands this and lets him live his own freely and touch bases here and there, it could work. Many of our great thinkers, philosophers, artists, and explorers were and are like this. The dream inside of them supersedes everything, thus they are true romantics, but it's for a fantasy of life in their minds, not for a real live relationship and family, because real life with a family can't compete with free-flowing fantasies. A woman by the name of Sasha Kagan has written a book called Quirky Alone, a manifesto for uncompromising romantics, 2004, where she tries to define single people who are reasonably happy with their lives and they won't compromise them for half-assed relationships. They're either comfortable with themselves, extreme in their search for love, or a bit of both. This is one of the problems for a romantic spirit. Their dream of a romantic love is often far removed from the reality of it. And when they do get involved with someone, they go hard, falling in love almost to the point of uncomfortable obsession. All in all, I enjoyed the concept and the book simply because you rarely see somebody break from the pack and say the seemingly dreaded words, "I'm pretty happy without being in a monogamous relationship, and I'm pretty romantic about it too." In fact, my whole life is one big romance with the spirit of life. I have a romance with the spirit of life. I can have sex, relationships, flings, even a monogamous relationship, but it's all part of my relationship with my soul. It's all the same, trying to live a glorious life in all its facets. Because of the cultural brainwash in society, women are so pressured to be in relationships that when they aren't, many think there is something wrong with them and go to pieces. You can be a romantic spirit alone and simply live as is. You don't have to conform to the world nor apologize for who you are. Quirky together is a term used to denote a relationship where two people who realize they like to spend a lot of time alone doing their own things come together for a relationship where they live and let live and respect each other's boundaries. They're still free to be themselves. There is less compromise than in a conventional relationship. Even though the term quirky alone was written by women for women, it applies to men as well. Try the term in search engines. Also try the term self-marriage and self-matrimony. Quirkyalone.com. Totolistmagazine.com. The Seasoned Woman. The book Sex and the Seasoned Woman, 2006, by Gail Sheehy is a glossy look at how aging supposedly frees women and makes them more vital and exploratory, but in reality, it's a cheap book written to make money by giving older women this illusory kind of hope and fantasy that life is oh so wonderful as you age and can have trysts without fear of consequence. To me, it's geared for middle to upper class women who have no financial worries, look marvelous, have no medical problems and spend their time in exotic cafes, hair salons, and on tennis courts. The book is a delusion much like Sex and the City is. It presents this phony view of older women and sexuality and never addresses the biggest problem of all, that of loneliness. There are nice, romance novel-like, erotic stories about sexual trysts, but this woman is supposed to be a serious sociologist or journalist or whatever it is she presents herself as to the world, but there was no honesty in the hardships of growing old, just a glossed-over sermon on work out 6 times a week and continue to look good so that men still see you as doable or F-cable to be more precise. It's all about selling books. Identify a target market, older women, then market a sex book at them. It's a big lie. How many older women do you know that are like her characters who are supposedly real people? I would have been more pleased if she approached it like Betty Dodson does, with honesty. Talk about masturbation, losing your looks, your health, your sex drive and lesbianism. Don't just say how the men all hit on you at the restaurant because you're so much more elegant and experienced than the younger chicks. The thing that gets me is that all these millions of women watch these phony images, these books and TV shows present, then naively think that this must be real and what cool, liberated women do. So then you watch the TV talk shows and you see some woman who's a shopping addict in debt up to her ears actually describe herself as like the characters in Sex and the City. Then you know the power of pop culture trash to help people destroy their lives. Age does not necessarily bring wisdom with it. I've seen older men and women act like fools. While it's excusable in the game of love, get over the delusion that people actually give a damn about what you look like unless they plan to have sex with you. It's the old runway fantasy, that you look so fabulous when you're walking through the mall or down the street that there's a spotlight on you shining down from the heavens because you're so beautiful and all the men are gushing over you. This is what they market to women of all ages as the way to be cool, fulfilled and happy, and middle to older women still fall for it. Why don't you get real, call a spade, be who you really are? I'm always looking for girls strong enough to be really who they are without all that pop culture indoctrination getting in the way, and I almost never find them. It would be refreshing to meet a girl whose hair is not caked over with hair color, whose lips are not oversaturated with lipstick, who is doing something substantial and original with her life in an unassuming way, just here being her. Everybody claims to be like this, but where are they? And what about this obsession with hairstyles? She spent more time describing her characters' hairstyles than describing who they were in their souls, and according to the book jacket, she was 68 years old when she wrote this book. How long do you have to be brainwashed for? For some people, it's an entire lifetime. The deal is that your soul tells the world who you really are. People with great, inspired, beautiful souls have that natural radiance about themselves. It doesn't matter what their hairstyle is. As a matter of fact, the more manufactured it is as opposed to your natural hair the way it naturally is, the more fake it makes you look. drdianawiley.com, sex expert for the over 40 crowd. Single life quotes. A choice to refuse to let your life be defined by your relationship. A busy, vibrant, goal-oriented woman is more attractive than a woman who waits around for a man to validate her existence. After years of searching, I have found my soulmate, and it is myself. Respect yourself. And feel damn right about it. At an age, one does not need to get into a relationship. At times, loneliness and the ill feeling of not having a special person in your life can be annoying. Be a woman of substance. Being in a relationship and getting married is not a biological need. You lead a life in which no one else drives your thoughts and decisions. Being brave enough to be alone frees you up to invite people into your life because you want them and not because you need them. Being single means getting used to your own company and not inventing excuses to keep people around you. Create your own singleness and know that you know this is exactly what you are doing. Dating becomes a cutthroat game of musical chairs with everyone scrambling for available partners to avoid standing alone at 30 when the music stops. Don't let society fool you into believing that if you don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend then you're destined for a life of misery. Don't disrespect yourself by lowering your standards and accepting just anything that comes your way. Embrace the beauty of your solo journey. Enjoy life as a single person but embrace marriage when you feel you are ready for it. Hope for love, pray for love, wish for love, dream for love, but don't put your life on hold waiting for love. I will not sulk about having no boyfriend, but develop inner poise and authority. If you want respect, respect yourself first. If you cannot be honest with your partner, stay single. If I want to be with a woman and she with me, why can't we just agree to be together and that's that? Why all of the vows, rings, government involvement and rules? Marriage is a business. Why isn't love enough? Why do people have to make commitments in front of the state, family, friends, the community, and so forth? It can be fun sometimes, but it's lonely. I am single by my choice, and I will continue to be till I meet someone that deserves me. Being single is a gift, take time to learn more about it and to enjoy it. It is not healthy to have mental blockages about marriage. It's not about love or emotional connection, it's about feeling like you can rightfully own another person. It's okay to be single. If you want a relationship of substance, you can't keep entertaining people and things that mean you no good. Living a single life is fun and challenging at the same time. My mother thinks I'm getting desperate in the man department. Never settle for someone whose company you enjoy less than your own dog's. Single, too fabulous to settle. Single or married, you are responsible for your own personal happiness. Single simply means, I'm resting my heart until it's ready to love again. I'm single because I'm waiting for the right time in the right place with the right person. When you seek love you can't find any, and when you stop they start chasing you. When you're single, all you see are happy couples. Single life should be a diet of junk food, aiming to please one's lower appetites. Single life is free from any sort of commitments, whatsoever. Single life is a life of a person who is not involved in any relationship. Single is no longer a lack of options, but a choice. Single is an opportunity to live life on your own terms and not apologize. She was along, a parade of one. Stop searching for happiness in places outside of yourself, and start finding it where it has always been, within you. Learn being your own again. The world always said to just be yourself, but it turned out when Evelyn was herself, no guys were interested, so she was left expressing enthusiasm for whatever the men wanted to do, be it rock climbing or going to a cheese beer pairing or an X game. The Dalai Lama has been single for the last 80 years and he is one of the happiest people on earth. The bachelor is content. There are some places in life where you can only go alone. There is no such thing as safe sex, since no one can create a condom for the soul. It's all up to you. We all have our own road to walk. When you're committed, all you see are happy singles. February can be one of the loneliest times of the year. Valentine's Day. Being single and thinking about memories can kill you. You attract what you are.